Hi, this is Ty Anderson for Add-in Express. In this video, I am going to explain how you can use Add-in Express 2010 to build Outlook solutions that take advantage of the new Outlook Solutions module. To better understand the Outlook Solutions module, let's just take a quick look at the default Outlook window. Where we see the ribbon at the top. Then if you look in the left-hand pane where we see the folders related to my Outlook installation, and then the series of buttons that are beneath it in the lower left-hand column where we have Mail, Calendar, Contacts, Tasks, Notes, Folder Lists, and that. Previously, with other versions of Outlook, we have not had the ability as Outlook developers to add a button to that navigation pane. And this has been quite frustrating to us because obviously if we build a solution, we would like to bring basically a doorway and place it right there in that navigation pane. We've been relegated to using only the ribbon. But what would be nice is to have a button and then click that button and then be able to see the underlying folders that we build underneath that solution. Luckily for us, we now have that with the Outlook Solutions module, where look at this window where what I've done is created a new add-in that I call Baseball Manager, and I have a button that displays at the very top of my navigation module. And when clicked, that button will display all the folders related to my solution. Here I have various folders from Game Notes, that is really a notes type folder, to Parents and Roster, which both of those are contact type folders. A Team Schedule, which is appointments or calendar, and then a to-do list, which is a typical task list. Notice that these are using default types, but I've been able to rebrand them and even give them a different icon. Quickly, let's just take a look at the two main users of the Outlook Solutions module. And the first is the user itself, the user of your add-in that you deliver to them and deploy to them. To them, it appears as a new button in the navigation pane, which we just saw previously. And when clicked, that will cause Outlook to display the folders contained within the Outlook Solution module. Both the navigation button and the folders you all create through code. There is no visual designer using out-of-the-box Microsoft functionality. Now for the developer, a solution, an Outlook solution or the Solutions module, is an object used to add a new module or a new solution module to Outlook. And using that object, you can then create folders, and those folders are used or are all based upon standard Outlook types. We still don't have the capability to create our own data type and load that in as a folder type. When we create these folders, we still have to utilize the Outlook data types or item types and then customize the forms to however we like within the solution. We also can add our own icons and things like that to the folders, so we give it a bit of its own look and feel so that it, at least to the user, it appears as different types, and we can control that through code. And we also do that by building custom forms that support our requirements. Now combine all of this with Add-in Express, and what you're going to have are Outlook solutions that are more awesome. And the key point that I want you to leave you here with before we go into a short little demo is that Add-in Express 2010 makes it easy to build Outlook add-ins that utilize the Outlook Solution module. And how does it do this? Well, it does it by doing something that Microsoft did not do, and that is provide a visual designer that you can use to configure an Outlook Solution module. With Microsoft out of the box, you have to do it all via code. You have to add the solution module to your add-in, and then you have to add the folders each time it runs. So when your add-in starts up, you'll have to add the folders and configure them, etc. Here, you just drop in an ADX Outlook Solution module component onto the add-in module designer, and then use the visual designer to configure by adding folders and customizing its properties. Then once you've done that, you can further extend your add-in, your Outlook add-in, by utilizing all the features provided by ADX. And so whether it's an advanced region, advanced pane, what have you, a new ribbon, etc., you have all the full features of Add-in Express to extend and round out your overall solution. The key here, though, is that now you'll have the Outlook Solution module behind you, and you basically have a nice encapsulated folder structure that you can use to store your data and provide a user with a nice CRM type solution, or as you'll see in just a minute, we're going to build a solution that could be utilized by a coach who's managing say a team of 7-year-old baseball players. And now that you know what an Outlook solution module is and how Add-in Express makes building with the Outlook solution module super simple and easy and really, really powerful. Let's go ahead and do a quick demo where I'm going to show you how to add the solution module to your Add-in Express project, how to configure it, and then also how to customize an Outlook form that can be utilized within the solution module as well. So to get started, what we'll do is click the New Project button on Visual Studio. I also could do this via the File New menu option. And once the New Project dialog opens, we'll see under Other Project Types and under Extensibility the location for the ADX.com add-in project template. So I have that selected, and I want to name this solution Outlook Solution Module. I'll say OK. This opens up the new Microsoft Office COM add-in wizard, which is Add-in Express's wizard to walk us through the different configuration steps required to create an Add-in Express project in Visual Studio. First, I'll select a new program. I'll select a programming language, which will be Visual C#, and then for the minimum supported Office version, I want to go ahead and just leave it with Microsoft Office 2000. Click Next. For supported applications, I'm going to choose only Microsoft Outlook, as that's the focus of this demo. I'll click Next. For strong key name, we'll just go ahead and do a generate new. That's fine. If I had an existing one, I could browse and select it, but we don't need to for this demo. And now I'll click Finish, and we'll see the project created inside of Visual Studio. And the key thing here to note is the add-in module, which that's our designer and really the place where we put a lot of the code to interact with the Add-in Express objects. So to open this in design mode, I'll select it and then hit View Designer from the Solution Explorer menu. I also could double click it. With the designer open, what I can do is we see available here on the toolbar of the add-in module toolbar, we'll see the Add ADX OL Solution Module, and doing this will drop a solution module object onto the designer. Also have the ability to add it with a right click of the mouse, where we see all of the available objects that we could add to the designer as well, where we have Add Solution Module. I could have done it that way. Now I'll go ahead and select it and we'll make the properties a little bit bigger so we can see them. And I'm going to change the name to Baseball Manager, which maybe I'll explain just briefly again real quick what this is. It's just a nice little way where I can have my players, my parents, any tasks, the team schedule or the game schedule, all those kinds of things in one little solution neatly packaged together. And although I might have customizations via icons and folder names and such like that, that provides meaning to me or to the user as to what these items are, underlying objects are still default Outlook types. Also here too, I want to set the navigation pane position from -1. I want to select it with my mouse, and I'll change it to 1. And what this will do is force the Baseball Manager navigation pane to display above all other navigation buttons in the pane. So this will be above the Mail button. Next, I want to open up the Folders collection, and I'll do that by clicking on the ellipsis button to open the Folders Collection dialog box. In this dialog, I can add folders to my solution module and then configure each of those folders. I can configure the default Outlook item type that will be hosted inside of each of those folders, as well as set their icons and other things like that. So I will start by selecting the Baseball Manager item here, which is the ADX OL Solution module that we see just above it in the add-in module. And here on the menu, I can click the Add Folder button to add a new folder, and we'll see that this is an ADX OL Solution Folder object with the name of ADX OL Solution Folder 1, and I'll change its name as well to Baseball Manager, except this time I'll have a space in it, and this will be actually the root folder that's displayed inside of Outlook when we see it in runtime. Its folder type I'll just leave as inbox. Really, I'm not going to use this folder for anything other than to just host all the other folders or serve as the root. And now I'll go back over to the members section of the form, select Baseball Manager with my mouse, and then I'll begin to add more folders underneath it. So I'll add more folders. I'll add another one, and we'll call this one We'll call this the roster, which will contain a contact item, and which will be the actual players on my team. And then we'll come back here and add another folder. This one we'll call parents. It too will contain Outlook item types, or contact types, excuse me. And select Baseball Manager and do add folder again. And we'll change this one's name to Team Schedule. And its type will be calendar. And let's do one more, call it Game Notes. This one will be a folder type of notes and would be used for, I like to keep notes about my players, and so after each game I'll just make notes for each game. We'll do one more folder and we'll call this one to-do list, and its type will be tasks. I'll say OK, and now we have what we need. Now that we have kind of the folders and the icons and everything set, we kind of have the shell of the solution, and at least its data structure or file structure set. So let's take a look at it inside of Outlook during runtime. First, I'll need to build the project, and that's done via the Visual Studio Build menu and Build Solution. And now that that's succeeded, I want to now go back to the Build menu and register the ADX project, which will register this add-in on my system, and Outlook will then know to run it. And it was successful. And because I don't have any code, I could certainly click the debug button here and start the debugger, which would start Outlook, and I could debug the add-in as events take place. But I'm not going to do that because I don't really have any code right now. Instead, I'll just go ahead and run it from the Start menu by opening it up in Microsoft Outlook 2010. When Outlook opens, we'll see in the lower left-hand corner the Baseball Manager navigation button displayed exactly where we specified for it to display, right above the mail or the all other buttons. In this case, it's the mail navigation button. Also, too, I have the folder list as my default view, and if we look in there, we see that in my Outlook store or data store, I have the Baseball Manager displayed as a folder, and then all of its child folders from Game Notes all the way down to the to-do list, just as we specified in the Add-in Express tools within Visual Studio. And also, too, as we move through, we'll see that the ribbon will allow us to create the default item for that folder. So Game Notes having notes, parents, and roster both having contact types, and then the team schedule, appointments, and the to-do list, new task items. To round out the video, what I want to do is add an advanced Outlook region that will extend a contact form. And in this one, we'll do something like capture their number and specify whether or not they bat left-handed, right-handed, or throw left-handed or right-handed. And what this does is show you how you can extend your solution because you're dealing with default Outlook item types. You're probably going to want to capture more data and extend the forms in some way. So this will at least give you the idea that you can do it and how you might. What I'm not going to cover, though, is how you persist that data within the Outlook data store. We'll cover that in another video. So we'll start this by, I'll just display the add-in module, and I'm going to just minimize the toolbox to give us a little bit more room. And what we want to do is add the ADX Outlook Forms Manager right here on the toolbar, or I can come all the way down here and do, with a right click on my mouse, say Add Outlook Forms Manager. So now I have the Outlook Forms Manager, and we also notice too that with the latest release of Add-in Express 2010, we also have a visual designer to manage our forms that are in the Forms Manager. Right now I don't have any, and so I want to now, in my project, I'll right click on the Outlook Solution Module project name, and I will say Add New Item. And now in the installed templates, we see that we have a node for Add-in Express items, and they're also broken out by the various Outlook application types. And in this case I want Outlook, and I'm going to say that I want the ADX Outlook form, and we'll call this roster extension. It automatically opens in code view, but what I want is the designer view. And we're going to not do a lot with this form. I'll open up the toolbox. The first thing I want to do is add a few labels. And next I want a text box. And then a couple combo boxes. Actually, we'll just do one for now. There we go. So I'm going to select this combo box, the first one, and within it I want to edit its items collection, and I want this one to say right and then left. And the label here needs to say throws. So with what hand do they throw it with? This label should say number for their uniform number, and this label needs to say bats for whether or not they bat right-handed or left-handed. Alright. It's not the prettiest of forms, but I think it gets the point across. So now I'm going to save that form, and then I will close it. And I'm going to hide the toolbox, give us a bit more room, and close the code behind for that form as well. Bring us back to the add-in module designer, where we're ready to now edit our Outlook Forms Manager. And what I want to do is, actually, I still prefer the items collection dialog box for this, and I want to add an item. So I have a new forms collection item with all the properties available to me here now, and I'm really more worried about not the Explorer items but the inspector level items, so the individual Outlook forms. And I want to say for the inspector layout I want the bottom subpane, and then for the item types I want it for the contact types. And then miscellaneous, I like to always show the header, and I also like to always display a close button. And then the most important is actually specifying the form class name, which is the actual form associated with this forms collection, which is our roster extension. So the Outlook Solution Module being the project name, and then roster extension being the form name. I'll choose that, and I'll say OK. And now one side note here is this Visual Designer. We have the Outlook Forms Manager, that's the active object in the add-in module, and the Visual Designer is showing basically a list of all the forms collections. And what's nice about this list is instead of hitting the ellipsis button to be able to edit the different collections and edit their properties, I don't have to do that anymore. I can just use the Visual Designer. I can click the object, and then within the Visual Studio Properties window we see all of the properties that we just saw in the dialog box. So it's a nice easy way to change your properties without having to open up another dialog box. So with that, we're ready to go ahead and build the solution. And yeah, it's successful. So now we're ready to open up Outlook and give it another go. We don't have to register the ADX project again, because once registered, it's registered until we unregister it or uninstall it. So now I'm just going to open up Outlook and give it a go. Now I did everything in that dialog box, but also too, look here, it's a nice convenient way down in the Visual Designer that I can select from the different collection items that I'd have in the Forms Manager, and their properties would display over here in the properties window, and I can edit them that way versus having to select the Forms Manager and then from the items menu get to their properties. So it's a bit more convenient. What I want to do now is I'm going to build the solution, and I'll just show you what the form extension looks like inside of Outlook when it's running in runtime. Alright, so the build succeeded, and we're ready to go. So Microsoft Outlook 2010. And there we have, here's our baseball manager. I'm just going to go ahead and have it filtered and show just those folders. And if I go to the roster, and I'll select new contact, and hide the social connector, and we'll see here roster extension with the number. We can choose bat throws right, bats left maybe, and you know their number, something like 42. One other thing, I'll go ahead and exit this. One, you know, the form didn't show that my contact item was dirty, so that's something when you build solutions you'd want to build in some mechanism to make that form dirty when they enter that in without actually even saving anything. Or maybe you wouldn't, since they didn't enter any information in the standard form. But also too, let's move over to the parents folder, and we'll create a new contact there, and we're going to see something that, oops, look at this, we see the roster extension displaying also for the parents, and the same would go for the default contacts folder or any other contacts folder that you'll see inside of Outlook. I tell you this to tease you for an upcoming video that we'll have related to what's known as context sensitivity, that we can take control of when this form would display and make sure that it only displays when we want. Like in this solution, we only want it to display for our roster items, but that's coming in another video. For this video, however, I think we have covered what I set out to cover, which one was what is the Outlook Solution Module, two, how can you use it within your Outlook add-ins, and three, how does the Add-in Express toolset make using the Outlook Solution Module simpler and easier to do than just writing code from scratch to build out your folders and set its properties, etc. So from here, I think you should take it and investigate more how you would code against the objects within the solution module from Outlook folders, etc., and how you would utilize data and link it together between the different folders, as well as to investigate further how you would extend the forms, for example, like the Outlook context sensitivity that we have in another video coming up. So that and more videos are on the blog, and I certainly suggest you check them out at your convenience. Thanks.